Hey everyone, and welcome to Poetry Class. My name is Mallory,
And I'm Kai.
and we will be your teachers for the next few weeks. Thank you for tuning in to Inspiration Fine Arts Camp, and let's get started.
So, like I said before, my name's Kai. I'm a junior, and I do have experience in speech and poetry. I've written poetry, performed it, and participated in competitions for spoken word and multiple speech events. Right there is my email. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to email myself or Mallory or both of us.
And like I said, my name is Mallory. I'm also a junior, and I have experience in speech, debate, and poetry. I did public forum debate, and I've done poetry, and I've done lip syncing, which is a type of competition in speech. And here's my email. It's also on every other slide. So what is poetry? The definition of poetry is writing that formulates imaginative experience in language chosen to create an emotional response through meaning, sound, and rhythm. The purpose of poetry is to share your ideas, your feelings, and experiences, and to evoke emotion from the readers such as awe, curiosity, or joy.
So, parts of poetry. We're going to be talking about these 7 types of poetry in later lessons, and then these parts of a poem in this lesson. So, types of poetry, we have the haiku, an ode, slam poetry, free verse, a sonnet, villanelle, and soliloquy. And then for parts of a poem, we have stanza, line, figurative language, rhyme, rhythm, and line break. So why poetry? Why do people write poetry? Why do people read poetry? People tend to write poetry to gain a better understanding of themselves, to express themselves, or cope with something going on in their world. People tend to read poetry to learn something new about themselves, others, or the world, to understand the language better, or to cope with something going on in their own world.
Okay, so we're going to read a poem and then we're going to analyze this poem to find out the parts of it. It is called Since Hannah Moved Away by Judith Viorst.
My laptop is frozen. There it is.
Okay, Since Hannah Moved Away. The tires on my bike are flat, the sky is grouchy gray. At least it sure feels like that since Hannah moved away. Chocolate ice cream tastes like prunes, December's come to stay. They've taken back the Mays and Junes since Hannah moved away. Flour smells like halibut, velvet feels like hay. Every handsome dog's a mutt since Hannah moved away. Nothing's fun to laugh about, nothing's fun to play. They call me, but I won't come out since Hannah moved away. So now we're going to analyze the parts of the poem. So the first part we're going to analyze is a line. A line is a single row of words in a poem. So as you can see, the highlighted line on this poem is the tires on my bike are flat. And it's the first row of words in a stanza, which we're going to talk about next.
So a stanza is a group of lines in poetry. Stanzas separate and group lines together. So box right there is the stanza, and it has 4 lines in it. And as you can see, it has the lines, and then it creates a stanza. And if you're having trouble, try to think of a stanza as a paragraph that it would be in an essay.
Okay, so now a line break. A line break is where the line of text ends. So in this stanza, it says nothing's fun to laugh about, nothing's fun to play. In the first 2 lines, you can see that they're full sentences and they have a period. But in the last 2 lines, they call me, but I won't come out since Hannah moved away. The 3rd line continues on to the 4th line, and that's where the sentence finishes out. As you can see, it's a break in the sentence.
Rhythm. So the beat and pace of a poem. And rhythm is created by using unstressed and stressed syllables within your lines and stanzas. So when Mallory was reading to the poem to you guys, you probably noticed a rhythm to the poem, but it wasn't very conscious. So when you read the poem, it goes, chocolate ice cream tastes like prunes, December's come to stay. They've taken back the amazing June since Hannah moved away. And that's not something I made up. That's how you would naturally read the poem, but I'm bringing it to your attention that there's a steady rhythm throughout the entire poem that you would naturally read this in that creates emotion or more understanding about the poem. So for the second stanza, flowers smell like halibut, velvet feels like hay, every handsome dog's a mutt since Hannah moved away. So you can see that there's a rhythm and the same rhythm throughout the entire poem.
Okay, now the next part of a poem, rhyme. Rhyme is the repetition of the same or similar sounds in two or more words. And in poem, rhyme typically occurs at the end of lines. So in this stanza, the tires on my bike are flat, the sky is grouchy gray. At least it sure feels like that since Hannah moved away. So as you can see, at the end of every other line, the words rhyme. And that's what you would call end rhyme, since the words that rhyme are at the end of a line. And this is the way to describe the way that the words rhyme are rhyme scheme. And to determine the rhyme scheme of this stanza, you would have to label each new sound at the end of a sentence. So the first line says, the tires on my bike are flat. That's one sound, so you could label that A. Then the second line says, the sky is grouchy gray. That's a new sound, so you can label that B. Now the third line, at least it sure feels like that. That and flat rhyme, so that's the same sound, so you would also call that A. And the last line, since Hannah moved away, away and gray are the same sign, so you would label that B. So the rhyme scheme on this stanza would be A, B, A, B.
Okay, and last.
Okay, the last part of a poem, figurative language. Figurative language are figures of speech that describe emotion or scenarios. And some examples are repetition, hyperbole, and personification. So within a whole poem, you can mix tons and different types of figurative language to convey what you're trying to say. So we're going to talk about three types: personification, hyperbole, and repetition. So in the first stanza, the second line, it says, the sky is grouchy gray. This would be an example of personification. And personification is when you take an inanimate object that doesn't have human abilities and make it seem like it does. So this line says, the sky is grouchy gray. Now the sky cannot really be grouchy, so that would be an example of personification. Now in the second stanza, the third line, they've taken back the Mays and Junes. That would be a hyperbole. A hyperbole is a strong exaggeration of some sort. So no one has really taken back May or June. That's just a stretch and an exaggeration. So that would be an hyperbole. Now the last figurative language we're going to talk about is repetition. As you can see at the end of every stanza, it has the same line, since Hannah moved away. This line repeats itself in every stanza, so that's an example of repetition.
And okay, I'm going to add that figurative language adds emotion. So if she were just to say the sky is gray, you would just picture a gray sky. But when she said it's grouchy, you're supposed to feel like, oh, it's like really upset, like everything feels gloomy and sad. And when the poet said they've taken the Mays and Junes, nobody took the Mays and Junes, but it feels like all that time was taken away and wasted because Hannah isn't there anymore. And then repetition is used to really drive home a point. So when somebody's repeating something over and over again, they really want you to understand that matters.
Yes, so figurative language is used to convey the message and to make the reader feel some type of way, to experience an emotion.
Okay, final thoughts. Next time we'll be talking about odes, what they are and how to write them. That's our first type of poetry that we're going to talk about. So we do have an activity for you guys. We want you to go on the website poets.org. It's a good website, lots of poems. We want you to find a poem that you like, read it to yourself, or perform it to somebody else, and then think about and discuss what you liked about the poem and identify the parts of the poem that we discussed today. And we want you guys to email us the poem that you chose, and then tell us what you liked about it. Show us some figurative language that you found. We're very interested to see what you guys find and come up with.
Okay, thank you for watching. That's all we have for today. We'll be posting every week, so stay tuned.
Yes, make sure you subscribe to the Inspiration Fine Arts Summer Camp YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hi, we are your IFA co-founders. I'm Ellie.
And I'm Miriam.
And thank you so much for watching our videos.
You guys can learn more about our cause down below at our website, www.inspirationfinearts.org.
And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We couldn't be where we are without the support of you guys, so make sure to send in videos of the things that you've learned during classes and pictures of the art that you completed.
Everything you send in will be featured on all our social media platforms.
Thanks for supporting us, and until next time,
go find your inspiration.